Okay, everybody, I'm here again with another presentation on Postgres SQL. So what is it? Postgres SQL is an open source object-oriented database. This means that the software has some object-oriented features associated with the system. While this is not particularly important at the moment, later in the PowerPoint there's going to be a heavy hitter feature for the system that relates to the security feature that Postgres SQL has. Postgres SQL is also referred to as Postgres or Postgres. The system has the advantage of being standard compliant. It also provides implementation of the SQL querying language. It has many advanced features like reliable transaction and concurrency without read locks. The system is very versatile and easy to personalize based on the user needs as well. So how to install it. This actual screen right here is actually more than one thing. So I'm going to talk about how to install and some of the security features as well. So to install it, you're going to obviously do like routine, the sudo apt update, and then you'll do the sudo apt install postgres SQL, postgres SQL-contrib. By default, Postgres uses a concept called roles. Roles is used to handle any system authentication and authorizations in the system. This is a common security feature for Postgres system. This particular feature is actually customizable. You can set up and create your own roles in the system as well, which I will go over in more detail in the next slide. So how to set up roles. By default, you have Postgres account already configured within the database. You can create a new user by using the create role command and the -- interactive command. It'll look a little something like that, the $ create user and then the -- interactive. Those will be the two commands that you could use. Although there are also two methods. The other method is if you prefer to use the sudo, you'll also do sudo dash or hyphen postgres create user -- interactive. This command is if you decide to interact with the system using the psql command, which again, I'll discuss that a little bit more in the next couple of slides. This little photo at the bottom, this is the output of what it should look like after you put in either of those commands. It typically asks you for the name, the role name, or the user that you'd like to add, and then how you answer the question depends on how you permit or whether it'll permit further execution. So here's some more about the security. The system is set up by default to use ident authentication. Postgres also uses host-based authentication. It supports it by adding and removing desired entries. This means that it associates Postgres roles with a matching Linux and Unix account. So ultimately, if a role already exists within Postgres, a Unix/Linux system username with the same name is allowed to assign roles in the system. Also, host-based authentication refers to the process of verifying verifying the identity of a user connection based on the IP address of the connecting host. This system, or for that method, the system commonly uses the trust reject method, which is something that you can see demonstrated in the screenshot there. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are a couple of ways to interact with the software. First command listed will allow you to switch over the default account user. This lets you adjust the account that you want to work with on your own system. This is also another method to switch accounts on the system as well, on the second little box down there. The second command prompt has here simply takes you directly to Postgres, which is the PSQL here. It allows you to directly communicate with the software. So instead of using like a sudo command prompt, you can use that directly and talk directly to the system. And last but not least, the third command prompt under exiting is going to be your exiting prompt. It's going to be how you will be able to exit the software and go back to your standard command prompt system. Here's another way to interact in the event that you don't like the communicating directly with the software. You can also have the option to use a sudo command, which would be sudo -u postgres psql. This allows you to communicate with the software using sudo commands like normal. And then again, it'll still be the same concept to exit. You'll use the same exiting method that I mentioned on the post or on the previous slide. It's not entirely necessary. You can still interact with the system, either way you'd like. However, it tends to be much simpler for us to use the sudo commands because that is what we are used to. So a couple of best practices for the system. I'm going to list them and then I'll go ahead and break each of them down. You want to create users for each database, rotate system credentials regularly, use connection pooling, and configure some sort of monitoring system. So creating users for each database it's one of those things. It's a little self-explanatory, but when you do that, it will allow you to configure and set privileges based on the system user. Be sure to create your own user that is also assigned under the role of owner so that you have root privileges over the system. So rotating system credentials is pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure you change all usernames and passwords regularly. The recommended length of time that you should wait to change the credentials is anywhere from 90 days to 6 months, depending on the level of security over the data. The next thing is using security pooling. So security pooling actually is a really nice thing. Using a lightweight connection pooler, such as I found an example called PG Bouncer, will allow your users to connect to the server through the system instead of connections to the server directly. This will dramatically improve your performance or your system performance. So doing this ultimately will make your system be more fluid and, run a little bit cleaner. And then last but not least, configuring some sort of monitoring system will allow you to track available memory size, what connections are being made, read and write activities, and system transaction rate. Doing this will essentially allow you to understand the metrics of the system so that way, you don't have any further issues going down later, and you can just keep track of those things to help you better improve your system setup. Last but not least, these are the sources that I used to complete this PowerPoint. Thank you.